Whew. All right. Close that laptop up. What a day that was today. So I did my live this morning. Now this is about 5 o'clock. I'm the only one home. And I think I'm going to get ahead of the game. I'm going to get a lot more voices shared. I found an email that I should have shared this morning. I'm going to share it pretty quick here. Okay, what am I doing? What am I doing? Gosh, I'm so... It's going to be one small little babble rant, all right? To give you an idea how my life goes. Sometimes, I don't know why, but it's consistent. What did I do? I left here. I had to take that 2.5 to 3 hour back road, login road route to get Sarah to the airport. She had to get up at 3:30. Blah, blah, blah. I got at 4:30. 4 o'clock, I think I got up. I gave her a ride to the airport, and then I had to take that, I had to double my way back a few hours. I think 2.5 of the logging road to get to where my boat is. Then I had to get up at 4:30 in the morning. Guide all day, which beats the crap out of you. Then I irresponsibly stayed up late with those retired police officers listening to those crazy stories. Then I woke up at 3:30 in the morning. Guided all day, heard the horses were out, stressed to the max, whipped home, fenced last night. Then I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning. Did fencing all day. Worked my butt off, trying to catch up. Phoned Sarah, when am I picking you up? She says I arrive at 11:55 tomorrow night. Now I gotta travel all the way over there and be there for 11:55. Okay, no big deal. And then attempt to make it home. And then she phones me back about 15 minutes later, says, oh, guess what? Alberta Poultry Place just called and said that we were on a wait list for our baby turkeys, our meat birds. And they all of a sudden said, oh, somebody canceled, and we have 18 of them now. Do you want them? She said, okay. But we have to pick them up from the post office at 4 o'clock in the morning. Then I have to pack up my stuff and leave to drive all the way back around again to get to the ferries and then start my 2-day drive up north. Oh my God. Anybody follow that? Do the math on that one for sleep and driving? How is this happening to me? I don't understand. I haven't done anything bad, I don't think. Oh well, I'll get through it. Is it amazing? Amazing. Somebody doesn't want me to sleep ever or be relaxed ever. Now, what do we got? All right, so somebody wrote me in a little bit of knowledge for my camera. Appreciate that. Then they went to part 2. That's what I missed this morning. Listen to this. You asked how to open up and clean up the pineal gland, our third eye. You ready for this rabbit hole? Ha ha. You're gonna love this bullshit. You can clean up the pineal gland, pineal, P-E-N-I-A-L, pineal gland, by taking nascent lodine, N-A-S-C-E-N-T, L-O-D-I-N-E. It is a form of lodine that once it's in the body, it will bond heavy metals and slowly leach its way out of the body, detoxifying the body of heavy metals and others. This will clean up the pineal gland and will help with brain fog, giving you better mental focus and higher IQ. No bullshit. They put, oh, it's iodine? Are you? All right, if it's iodine, because now it's spelled with a L-O-D-I-N-E, or is that a capital I-O-D-I-N-E? Sorry. They put the lodine or iodine, the table salt for cooking, like in the 1924 or something like that. It boosted there like 15 points. Sorry you guys are butchering this, be patient. Let me try that sentence one more time. Giving you better mental focus and higher IQ. No bullshit. They put, it's either lodine or iodine, but that's a L. It's not an I. We'll call it lodine. I'm just going to read it the way it's spelled. They put lodine, the table salt for cooking, like in the 1924 or something like that. It boasted there like 15 points. That's exactly what I'm reading, all right? Go ahead and look it up. So this was just regular loading they put in the table salt. Now, nascent loading is the good stuff. So think what that do for health long term. So, this was why you see all these hippies and gurus drinking Lodine water. They knew the secret to high mental enlightenment. Alright, you're consistently spelling it Lodine, so I'm guessing that is the word. Oh my god, it's been a long day. Bear with me. So they stopped adding Lodine to the table salt a while ago. I think because the people were too smart. They want to dumb them down, so they will be obedient slaves. Okay, I'm going to say something funny. I'm just chucking shit at you. If you've been taking this, it's not doing much for your typing. There's a bunch of typos in here, buddy. That's okay, I'll get through them. Back on topic, nascent Lodine. You can find a few different ones. A good one is bracket X-2 survival shield bracket. It's good price and pure nascent Lodine. Not that seaweed iodine crap. Alright, now you spell iodine. Not that seaweed iodine crap. ×2 pure nascent Lodine that came from deep earth Lodine crystal mined and brought up to the surface. Then mixed together with palm oil so that it becomes stable and able to be ingested by humans. How to use. Drops are put into a glass with pure water, then you drink it. The reason why to use pure water is so the nascent Lodine doesn't stick to any heavy metals or things that are in regular water. Taking it in the morning, within the first hour of waking up, would be very effective as your body is rehydrating after sleeping all night. People say it takes a few weeks to feel results, but as well the toxins will leach out from your skin and see some strange thing coming out of the skin. But if anyone is interested in this, do some research. Look at the different studies done. Look up Global Healing Center and look at their information. Alright, thanks for that. Obviously we have to look into something like this before just reading it and going for it, because me personally, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. Lodine, never heard of it, but I'm going to look into it. Part 3, you asked about any good charity for the Lahaina fire victims here in Maui. I like Hope for Hawaii. Jason Jones helps run this charity. He helps victims all around the world. He is down here in Maui helping people in Lahaina. He's going to the victims and asking them what they need. He is giving them money in their hands so they can get gas, clothes, and other items. He posted a photo of him and others shopping for school supplies for victims who have to send their kids to other schools because theirs burnt down. Hope for Hawaii charity is going to have a third-party audit to show where all the money was going, and everyone can. What other Maui charity can say that? This Lahaina fire was a shit show. The fire started in the morning and went all day, then into the night. They did not turn the warning sirens on at all. They left the power lines on, starting house fires and others. They turned the water off. The police blocked the road to get off. Police blocked the road to get off town to the main highway, making them drive back towards the fire. Okay, I think you probably meant get out of town to the main highway, making them drive back towards the fire. Okay, too much to talk about. Steve, take care while you're out and about. Aloha from Maui, Rick. Okay, Rick, appreciate that, man. Do me a favor, do us a favor. Send us back a little more information on that fire. A little more information on the grief that was done. A little more information on the charity. And do a little proof check on your typing and punctuation so I can read a little smoother. Because I'm interested in everything, alright? Especially the charity, and especially what may have possibly went down when it came to preventing help for the people. Probably sounds outrageous that anybody would even do that, but I'm starting to sense a little bit of a pattern here in the world today, and I want to look into it myself. Oh, so much darkness and grief these days. Alright, let's see how this one makes out. This is titled Bigfoot in Michigan. Hi Steve, my name is Kate. I'm 40 years old and I have 3 children, ages 14, 9, and 7. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, living along the Grand River on my parents' property. I never believed in these beings, nor ever gave it a second thought, as I knew them to be a myth or legend. Alright, hold on a minute. This laptop's fan won't stop, so I'm going to stop the laptop. Alright, it's time to shut this laptop off because the fan was screaming. I know it's not blocked. Now listen to this. This is titled Bigfoot in Michigan. Hi Steve, my name is Kate. I'm 40 years old and I have 3 children, ages 14, 9, and 7. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, living along the Grand River on my parents' property. I never believed in these beings, nor ever gave it a second thought, as I knew them to be a myth or legend. I was one who would laugh out loud if a story came up and poke fun at the believers. Well, that all changed suddenly on May 23rd, 2021. It was a beautiful Sunday afternoon, Memorial Weekend, and my kids and I were finishing up swimming at a lake in Baldwin, in northern Michigan's Manistee National Park forest. My husband's family has a cabin nearby the lake about 2 miles away. I'd rather not name the lake at this time. We spent countless weekends at this property for over a decade. My husband grew up on this land as his grandfather built the cabin in the early 80s as his retirement escape. His grandfather passed, and the cabin has become my husband's responsibility now. As we left the beach, tired and hungry at 3 p.m., my minivan was packed with 6 kids and myself. My 3 kids, my niece, and my best friend's 2 kids. As we neared a stop sign, I glanced to my left, checking for traffic, preparing to make a right turn. I saw something move slightly low to the ground about 75 yards away. It was light gray in color, down on all 4s. And immediately I thought, a bear. As I watched it, it turned its head side to side as if checking for traffic, and then stood upright. I held the brake and took full focus, saying out loud, "What the heck is that?" All 6 kids turned to look with me. We watched as it took a step into the dirt road and looked both ways again. It then very casually walked across the 2-way road in 3 swift but smooth steps. I thought to myself, this is the tallest man I've ever seen, and all one color. I thought, a mechanic's suit? After it disappeared into the woodline, we all sat quietly for a moment. I wanted to make sense of it, so I told myself it was a very tall elderly man wearing a mechanic's suit going to retrieve something from the woods. There's a cabin nearby where he crossed, and that he must be the owner. Not until I continued driving to the cabin did the kids start sharing what they saw. A full collaboration. It was tall, very tall. I estimate over 7 feet. It was light gray in color head to foot, and very thin. Hands swung low past the knees. No neck visible, no ears, hunched forward slightly. At about 75 yards away I could distinguish the facial features, but it was definitely human-shaped. Walked bipedal. Then the kids spoke about how it looked more like fur, not clothing. And I agreed it had a strange flow, or texture, that I thought at first was a suit. Then one of the kids said, out loud, "Bigfoot." Chills ran up and down my body, a numbness. Then a ringing in my ears. I was feeling shock. My stomach sank and suddenly I felt ill. My heart started racing. That's impossible, I thought. How could it be true? There's no such thing. And in Michigan, of all places. When we returned to the cabin, I immediately told my husband what we saw, and all 6 kids gave their interpretation as well. He was skeptical, but we agreed we should go and look for tracks, where we saw a cross. On the way to the spot, it suddenly began to downpour rain. By the time we reached the spot, there was no chance of finding tracks. We gave up and headed back to camp 2 miles away. Back at camp, everybody decided to go for a trip to the gas station for snacks. Everyone left, even the dog, but there was no room for me, so I stayed behind. Uh-oh. As I sat on the front porch, alone, the rain had stopped and it was strange quiet in the woods. The cabin sits back the cabin sits back on a 1 mile private drive, so no neighbors nearby. I heard some footsteps in the woods coming from the right, bipedal. Crunch, crunch, pop, like a small stick being broken. I listened carefully and could tell it was getting closer to me. I thought, oh my gosh, if this is the Bigfoot, I'm about to get the best footage ever. And my husband will have to believe us. I pulled up my phone, video record ready, and walked towards the sound. No way! The steps were heavy enough I could pinpoint the location. Small sticks were cracking and breaking, so I knew it was something big. I got to the edge of the woods and it was within 20 yards of me, and then it stopped. I froze too and studied the woods carefully. The patterns of the bark on the tree, the shadows, every detail in front of me. I don't remember if I was breathing in this moment. Time stood still. I felt a presence, but there was nothing there. The woods were not super thick in this area, and there was absolutely no reason why I shouldn't see the animal that walked so loudly 20 yards from me. Almost intentionally loud. I said in my mind, I know you're right there. Why don't you show yourself to me? Still nothing. Okay, I wonder how you would know about doing that if you did not believe in this topic. Curious question. I stood there silent and still, waiting until my husband's truck came into view down the driveway, and I decided it was best to let it go and not worry the others about it. I had to let it go. The next night I had a dream, and in this dream were 3 of these beings walking together through a pine forest with the sun setting behind them, so only their silhouettes. A large one, medium, and a small one. In my dream, I took video of them, and it was legit, an amazing video worth making public. I tried to pull up the video to show my family and friends, and it had been mysteriously deleted from my phone. I was so enraged. I woke myself up from my sleep. Since this sighting, I've had other dreams of them, not scary, but almost as if I'm being allowed to see them in a non-threatening manner. One night at the cabin, my husband and I went shining for deer. When we came back, the front door was wide open. Odd, as we know we closed the door when we left. As I lay down to go to sleep, I had a panic attack like something was in the cabin with us. My husband fell asleep quickly, but I laid awake looking at the doorway to the bedroom, my mind reeling. I felt a presence enter the doorway, and immediately my dog started growling towards it. My heart nearly exploded with fear. No doubt, put yourselves there, right? That would be quite alarming. I repeated the Lord's Prayer 2 times, and whatever it was left and has not come back. Whether or not it was a Bigfoot or evil entity, I do not know. But it respected the Lord's Prayer. Said dozens of people. That's my go-to now. Now I am super vigilant. Now I am super vigilant, always looking, listening, and feeling the woods. We've had loud single pounds on the outside of the cabin. Late nights spaced out 10 minutes apart. Strange calls like an owl, but not quite right. Loud howls followed by coyotes going crazy. The tree knocks are really freaky. They sound so close sometimes. My husband knocked back once, but I advised him not to do that. We had a hunting buddy mention he saw a huge guy walking very quickly through the woods, not on a trail, no orange on, no gun in his hand on opening day of gun season. Unheard of. I wanted to thank you for this platform, for sharing our truths. The truth is, I'm obsessed now. I read everything I can get my hands on, even the woo-woo stuff, because I am 100% certain they can cloak among other amazing things. The Book of Enoch is where I'm currently at. It was removed from the Bible, and I must say it has been an interesting read so far, putting biblical context to these experiences only raises more questions for me. Are these the Watchers? The counselors of God? Is there a veil that will be lifted and these beings will be set loose to cleanse the earth of all evil? Telepathy, mind speak, cloaking, orbs, portals? It's all pretty amazing and hard to fathom. Keep researching, keep sharing our truths, do not be afraid. My respect for the forest has grown immensely. I now pick up trash everywhere I go, no matter how disgusting, time-consuming, or heavy it is to carry out with me. I do it out of respect, to leave the forest more beautiful than when I entered. My kids even help me and get excited when we fill a whole grocery bag of trash. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you, Steve, for your bravery, and thank you to everyone who has shared the story here. You've given me the courage to share mine, and now I'm sending that courage to whoever else has been debating whether or not to share their truth. Do it. Just do it. God bless us all. God protect us all during these dark times. Kate from Michigan. Welcome to the club, Kate. Welcome to the club. The club of no return. So many people are looking and digging. I actually love that. I love that so many people are just looking and digging and trying to figure it out, and they're sharing. That's the key. Keep sharing it. All right. Let me mark this one as red. What do we have to say on this one? It's titled Multi-Dimensional Spiritual Beings. I think I know, or at least have an idea of what a Sasquatch is. I spent the last 20 years digging down every rabbit hole I could find, from conspiracy theories to aliens. You name it, I looked into it. Nothing made sense until I connected science and spirituality. Tesla said, quote, "My brain is only a receiver in the universe. There is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration," end quote. He also said, quote, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration," end quote. So, when I started noticing all these hippie-type people talking about raising their vibration by meditating and thinking positive thoughts, I figured I would give it a try. Keep in mind, I am not a religious person and only believe things that I could prove to myself. I tried meditating and started listening to binaural beats and solfeggio frequencies, and things started to happen that I could not explain. Synchronicities in my life were so absurd that just being coincidence was impossible. It was like there was an intelligence communicating to me from a higher dimension. Call it God, angels, aliens, my higher self, whatever you want, but it was real. This caught me off guard, and I thought I was going nuts. I did not hear voices or see stuff that wasn't there. It was just like everything slowed down, and I was super aware of things that I normally would have missed. My conclusion is this: Sasquatch is a multi-dimensional spiritual being that can control its... Hold on. Just got a text and went in front of where I was reading. Sasquatch is a multi-dimensional spiritual being that can control its vibration to a point where it can shift dimensions physically and communicate telepathically. They can feel your vibration and are so in tune with the universe that they can become part of the universe at will. When we learn to control our emotions, vibrations, we can connect to these higher dimensions. The core Tesla was talking about, the orbs that people see, is their Merkaba, M-E-R-K-A-B-A, light body, or soul, that they have learned how to use. Whistleblowers like Bob Lazar said the government knows about alien races that have altered our DNA on many different occasions in history. Maybe Sasquatch is the one version of human that got separated and could not be contained. Maybe it is a different species altogether, who knows. All I know is they are real. The quote, government, end quote, does not want us to know how powerful we are, because this whole world is designed to keep us at a low vibration. Absolutely agree with that statement myself. Absolutely agree with that. They want us divided by race, by class, by religion, by politics, you name it. Because if we all realized we were on the same team, we would have nothing to fear. And we'd all come together and fix whatever problems the world faces. Think of it like walking into a room of angry people. It has a bad vibe. Just like if you walk into a room of happy people. That room of happy people will lift your spirits, and just being in it will make you happy. Now imagine 8 billion people all happy. You would change the vibration of the whole world. No more wars, no more suffering. The powers that be would lose all power. We would be able to tap into the higher dimensions and over time develop telepathy and who knows what else. I'm not a writer. I find it difficult to explain this stuff in an email without it sounding crazy, lol. It is way more complicated than this. If you read this far, congratulations, lol. If you have any questions, I would be happy to try to explain in greater detail. Thank you for your videos. I don't get to hunt and fish as much as I like. I live in Windsor, Ontario, where it is flat and boring. I dream of living in the mountains one day. Jeff Whalen. Okay, Jeff, you know what? You didn't believe how many people from Ontario are in Whistler. Holy cow, so many people. Where are you from? Ontario. Said so many. And they never leave. Once they come out here in the mountains, they never leave. But that's interesting, man. Appreciate you sharing that. Sounds like you got a whole bunch in there to share with us after years of digging, right? So, if you feel like it, and you want, now you've heard me read it, if you want to deliver more, you know how you want to deliver it, give her. Deliver more to me, alright? Us, through me, if you want. I'd appreciate it. I'm very interested in learning more on what you tapped in on, what you have been tapping in on. Who's next? Sabe. Friend or foe, question mark. Steve will keep this short. Long-time listener, one-time experience sharer. VM. I wrote to you about my experiences a year or so ago, about an elk hunt in Colorado where my horses freaked out going down a trail we'd gone up 2 hours earlier. For my puzzle, I have a question to ask of the Owl Man, the Arizona Four, the First Nations people, or anyone of the How to Hunt family that has ongoing communications with these forest people. Based on the information shared that Sabe knows of God and Jesus, my question is, can someone please ask them, when all hell breaks loose, figuratively, biblically, interstellar, or all the above, are you here to help us, or are they here to help destroy us? I think it's fair to say we've helped them. Example, Mount St. Helens. Humans setting aside national lands, preserves, etc. I don't believe that was for us to enjoy because that's what our leaders want me to think. Any thoughts would be appreciated. Thank you. Ron froze. Interesting question. I actually kind of thought about that the other day. I think somebody mentioned something about that. You know what? Let's just say they were the first humans. They do have human female DNA in them, right? Mitochondrial DNA in them. If you could make yourself transparent, possibly be a spiritual and a physical being at the same time, all right? And let's just say you absolutely rocked it out when you hung out here on Earth and possibly remote places all to yourself, whatever you're doing. And then you see the shit show going on, right? You see the absolute shit show going on with humans. And you're watching humans kill each other, poison each other, intentionally annihilate each other, create drugs, slam that into each other, take money from each other, just the whole 9 yards. Would you just sit and wait it out and watch them do themselves in and not do anything and kind of maybe even almost hope it comes quicker than than you think? Or would you help them? Why would you help them? What would be the real true motivation to help this species? If you're a species that could do all these things that we can't, which means we basically probably don't have much effect on them at all, except for possibly the human beings who do have the knowledge and are seeking them out and killing them, which I will have shared with me shortly. What's going on there? But aside from that, picture it. If you're to watch, say, mainstream news right now for what? I don't know, watch mainstream news every day for a month. It probably wouldn't take you long to decide to, oh man, I'm just going to sit back and we'll let this shit show play itself out, and hopefully it does it sooner than later, because this is ridiculous. Right? Seriously, right? People from all over the world sending money and weapons to another place in the world to annihilate human beings, when the people that are doing it should probably just get together in a stadium and kick the shit out of each other, kill each other there. Right? Those 10 or 15 human beings who are manipulating and controlling all this war. Anyways, I could babble. I'll bite my lip there. I'm sure you know what I'm trying to get at. If I was one of these beings, I don't think I would do much to help the human species after observing them for a short while. But that's just me. That's just me. Alright, what's this one? Excuse me, I don't know what this is about, but it looks like it's about the topic at hand, so I'm going to dive in. This is titled Almost Everything. I'm trying to chronicle all my experiences that have been repressed by life in general. Pressure, if you will. Pressure to provide, perform, and placate the public at large. Basically, we have to dumb down our sixth sense in order to conform and stay under the radar. True enough. Every time I try to get back to this email, I watch your channel and another piece of the puzzle falls into place. Most recently, August 2023, I heard mention of shooting stars, coinciding with sightings. Every sighting I had took place during meteor showers. Oh, there's a thought. Maybe they're not meteors. Interesting, right? Has anybody got video up close of a meteor entering our atmosphere on slow motion so we could actually see it burning up and see what the core of the meteor was at the head of the meteor trail? There's a thought. Never had that thought before, but you never know, right? That's interesting. Very interesting. The other thing is autism. Twice this month so far. Your neighbor's son providing with the wildlife, and a lady wrote that she was on the spectrum. I'm pretty sure that ADHD is considered to be on spectrum, and I'm here to say that my unmedicated ass is waving that flag. My unique affliction associated with my ADHD is the ability to slow down time and determine multiple outcomes to almost any situation within a split second. I believe that the Sasquatch people can key into that vibe and sense your intentions. If your mind is clean, you needn't worry. I spent years learning how to cope with a cluttered mind, so by the time I had my experience in '84, I'd worked out most of the kinks. We now rejoin this email, which is currently in progress. I think this is going to get interesting. You got to turn on another light in here. It's getting dark outside. Hold on a second. Alright, there we go. Probably caused a reflection on these annoying readers, but whatever. Had to put that other light on. Getting dark outside. So, continuing on in the email. Hey Steve, so happy to have this platform to share. I hear you telling people to send it, so here's my comprehensive collection of encounters that started in PA and New York. Started in February '84 in Pike County, PA. Township of Shohola. Why are these things reflecting so crazy? Like, I don't get it. Township of Shohola, PA. Me and my buddy Kenny, bracket, bear, and bracket. Yes, he is the size of a bear. We're walking back to my place when it happened. It was one of those crisp, clear nights, and the moon lit up the frozen landscape. I was looking up at the clear night sky, and all of a sudden I saw a shooting star. As it fell, something else caught my eye. It was a gray flash about 100 yards away from us, moving like a bullet. I turned to Kenny to verify what I had seen, but he was next to me. He was 2 paces behind me, shaking like a leaf. The creature was tall. Not that I could judge the exact height, but you know. It wasn't as massive as most have been described, but the speed was incredible. Hair was gray and sort of silver in the moonlight. I couldn't see any facial features, but there was no protruding snout. Finally got back to my place where a couple of well-deserved shots of bourbon set the bear back on his axis. Skip ahead to the summer of '84, I graduated high school and was doing odd jobs in the community for pocket money. For some reason, there were prolific meteor showers that summer, and one of my favorite places to take the girls was the baseball field to watch the light show. My next two visual encounters were within this period, and the relevance of it just recently clicked. The next time was when Kenny and I were in the swamp on the west side of the community. Kenny wandered to my left and didn't get as good a look as I did. About 50 yards ahead was what looked like a black bear going to town on a blueberry bush. I decided to try and get closer, but my clumsy ass had not yet figured out how to walk silently in the woods. When it heard me, it looked directly at me, did an about face, and took off on two legs. It was gone in a flash. I told Kenny what I saw, but he just kept saying bear. He did not want to entertain the idea of Sasquatch. His trip in February was not a very good one. I made my way over to the bush, which came out to my chest. Then I realized it was a juvenile, around my height, 5'11". Sadly, Kenny never talked about either incident again, and we sort of drifted. Common. Sad, but common. He's no longer with us, and I don't think he ever really got back into the woods. Not the way we used to go, at least. That sucks. The next was 2 weeks later. Meteor showers every night. I couldn't sleep, so I was looking out the window, staring into the green belt, which connected to thousands of acres of state game land, and all of a sudden I hear the roar. Something I've never heard in those woods, coming from the direction I was staring at. Next I hear a deer trotting down the road, and something ripping through the green belt. It was almost out of the tree line, about 50 feet away from my window, and I pulled back the curtains to get a better look. The curtains were sheer, but I wanted full on. I saw it busting through the trees, but when it saw the curtains move, it lowered its gaze and backed into the trees without a sound. It was eerily quiet, and I never took my eyes off of the spot where I saw the green eye shine. As the sun came up, I took a tape measure to the spot. It was 9 feet to the eyes. I couldn't tell the color, so it could have been the gray one, but it seemed bigger, just from the way it was ripping through the brush. Years passed, college, work, and responsibilities took me away from the deep woods connection, and Sasquatch slipped into the back of my mind. My outdoor recreation shifted heavily to fishing, since I was now able to afford a boat. In 2014, I sold the place in PA and bought a cottage in Cape Vincent, New York. I could throw a rock and hit Lake Ontario. 2015 to present. Multiple slaps in the cabin, growls, and babble speak, no visual. The babbling comes from my driveway between the boats, perfect place to look into my window, to see me falling asleep in the recliner. When I mute the hate box, the babble stops. 2018 to present. Strange sounds from coyotes. Something just doesn't sound right. 2021, late summer. Friends found a huge footprint on the back of my property going into the thickest brush you could possibly imagine. The brush was undisturbed. 2022, late summer. I was trying to loosen up the action on my Marlin 4570 Libra action. My plan was to run some rounds through the gun and look for brass transfer? Or maybe after, you meant. Then pull it apart and polish the edges. All of a sudden, there was a growl that vibrated the cottage right below the window just behind the TV. Mind you, I just laid the gun down on the chair next to me. It was loaded, safety on, half cocked. Best safety ever. And whatever growled moved to the back of the house. It started stomping back and forth just outside the reach of my floodlight. It was so hard that I could feel it through the floor of my cottage. Just then, I realized that I hadn't shut the back door yet. And this is the only encounter where I actually felt scared. The only outcome my brain allowed me to see was death. I didn't think I had enough gun and certainly didn't have enough time to get it. turn around, and get a shot off before this thing ate my ass. Friday, finally, maybe 30 seconds later, I stood up, walked to the door, and closed it. The stomping continued for an hour, but stopped when I turned off the TV. The next day, I returned the gun to my safe in my shipping container. That night, I got one growl and one stomp about 30 feet away from my bedroom window, and that was that. I'll leave it there, because that's the only bad experience I've ever had. And it really wasn't that bad. In all my experiences, I never encountered any foul odors. However, my sense of smell isn't that great, due to the amount of fists my nose decided to punch throughout my misspent youth. Thank you again, Steve. Michael Gaglione. I hope I pronounced that right, Michael. Free forever in caps lock. Let's hope so, man. I'm right there with you. Free forever. Now the meteor thing. All right. Let's throw our brains into a twist with that one, shall we? I never ever thought about, we don't have people writing in about meteor showers and sightings. We don't. We got bright lights and orbs, etc. So I don't know, picture this one. How do I know that's a meteor? Oh, it's a meteor. Oh, I just saw a shooting star. How do I know that's a shooting star? Because somebody told me, right? I don't know. All the shooting stars that are in the sky, it's not hard to see them. When I'm in the woods, I see them all the time. Glance up, or there goes another meteor, shower, shooting star, whatever you want to call it, right? What if that's something coming here? You never know. Has anyone ever set up one of those expensive, ultra zoomed in cameras and intentionally tried to capture the image on high-speed video of a shooting star? I wonder, right? I wonder. I mean, there's probably nothing. Who knows? My uneducated mind might not have a clue what is actually known about those shooting stars. The information on shooting stars that would back up that they are shooting stars. Right? But you never know, right? What if? What if we find out later on and go, oh my God, no way, those weren't shooting stars. There were actual entities entering our planet, entering our atmosphere and coming here. Something to think about, right? You never know. I don't know. Who knows? The only way I know that's a shooting star is because I've just been told that from other humans. And that's it. And I repeat what they tell me, right? Like a parrot. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just being a dumbass. But you never know. If anybody knows if somebody's filmed an actual, quote, shooting star, end quote, send me the link. I want to see it. I want to see it. Ooh, here's a book. Whoa. Mega book. Should I go in? I don't even know how long I've been sitting here. I'm going in. Going in. There's no title. Steve, I've hesitated to send this. I know you get tons of emails, but heck, I'm typing this out for me too. So it's okay if you never read it. Oh, we're going to read it. Neighbor's got his bobcat out. Let me close the screen door. I work in a career surrounded by death and carnage. And I've always found that writing things down, even if for no one else to see, was a bit of a de-stress / debrief for me. Excuse me. Let me start by saying that finding your videos last hunting season was refreshing. I've been dealing with some experiences for years, and these knuckleheads on a couple of Facebook groups I joined are clueless. Can you imagine wishing to have these experiences? What total ignorance and naive stupidity to wish to be a statistic. People have, by and large, romanticized these damn creatures just like they have with wolves. Seeking them out, gifting food? Are they out of their effing minds? That said, I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's important to keep it up. I'm always looking for news stories and am at least a little reassured by the ones who say it hasn't stopped them from enjoying the outdoors. In the interest of trying to keep this short, I've rewritten and condensed it several times and tried my best to keep the grammar smooth. It's still really long, and for that I apologize. I will skip the details of my past and just leave it at this. I'm a lifelong hunter, fisherman, hiker. I was definitely a free-range child with no boundaries and spent a lot of time in the swamps as a child by myself doing things I would never let my kids go off and do. I should also say that I'm particularly in tune with that sixth sense. I always have been since childhood. I sometimes don't listen to it well enough, it seems. I've had 3 experiences with these abominations. Only one of those involved seeing one, and I'll try to explain the events. I live on the Gulf Coast, and my first 2 encounters took place in the swamps here. I was somewhere around 19 when my sister and I decided to go squirrel hunting on land I grew up hunting. There's a mix of swamp and hardwoods, and is on the edge of thousands of acres of undisturbed swamp. In fact, you just read an email from another fellow that had experiences there. The Marapa Swamp. Back to the story. We went into the woods on a day that was finally void of rain. We went to the swamp and up into the oaks to squirrel hunt, even though I knew it'd be shitty because of the gusty wind. As expected, we didn't see a single damn squirrel, so no shots were fired to alert anything to our presence. We regrouped and walked out to the pipeline clearing that runs through the property. My sister just wanted to shoot, so I was looking for a target for her before it became too dark. Suddenly, a 6 foot or better tall man stepped out of the tree line down the clearing approximately 75 to 100 yards away. He was dark from head to toe and thickly built. It was nearly impossible to make out much detail as the tree line it walked out of had the sun behind it casting a shadow over him. He took 2 long strides, walking carelessly when it turned and looked in our direction. We've had many poachers, so my immediate thought was, poacher or not, I'm sure glad we didn't actually accidentally shoot this idiot out here wearing no safety orange. Wait, he wasn't carrying a rifle. Well, that's odd. So at the moment he saw us, and in a very unhuman-like movement, he leapt back to the tree line it had just walked out of and landed in a squatted position where I suppose he figured we couldn't see him. And I'll be honest, he did blend into the bush and palms quite well, but the backlighting made him very noticeable. That's what happened to me, is the backlighting that screwed the dude up when he sat in that squat behind that rock looking at me. As all this happened in a fraction of time and behind my sister, she did not see it. For some reason, I felt no desire to tell her about it. I raised a low-power scope 22 long rifle to try to get a closer look as it squatted there. I could clearly make it out and the hairy edges of his profile, but no detail. I couldn't help but think to myself that he has to see me pointing a rifle at him. Why wouldn't he stand and wave his arms in the interest of self-preservation? I decided to take a shot into the center of the clearing, about 50 yards to his left. I hoped he would either identify himself or flee. Nope. It remained fidgeting and swaying a bit while crouched. So I put a round into the leaves of the tree far above him. Still didn't make any attempt at self-preservation. Shit, now I'm concerned. I tell my sister it's time for us to go and promise to bring her shooting another time as the darkness is creeping in fast and we have some nasty snake-filled swamp to wade through. I never did tell her what I saw. I continued to keep a close eye on this dude, and as we started to move across the clearing, it moved on all 4s, deeper into the tree line and disappeared. The creature followed us all the way out. It stayed just on the other side of a bayou, a muddy creek to you Yankees. It was fairly quiet, but at this point, the breeze had died down and the palms were too thick to be utterly silent. I felt terrified on that walk out. The sun was down, but my hackles were straight up. Knowing I was being watched and knowing that whatever or whoever it was in no way intimidated by me or a rifle. We were being tracked. We were now the prey. I didn't want to think about what it was, but something about the way it moved wasn't human. And it took me a while to admit to myself it was one of the Sasquatches like the Patterson film, but not as thickly built. It was unsettling. Had those been around for the last 10 years of me playing out there, I had never seen any tracks. After a while, I dismissed the event and really never thought about it again until recently. On to the next experience. Fast forward several years into my early 30s. I've been busy with work and hadn't hunted much for several years. I decided to go make a hog hunt to blow off steam and scratch the itch. I left around 3 a.m. for a large, swampy wildlife management area about 1.5 hours away. The Atchafalaya Basin. It had been some time since I hunted there. It's spelled Atchafalaya. It had been some time since I hunted there. It was during the week and deer season was over, so I didn't see a single person or a vehicle on the WMA that day. As I arrived, I took a wrong turn somewhere along the old abandoned oil well roads and ended up down a narrow, muddy road. I was getting concerned about getting stuck in the mud and having no idea where to call help into the dark. Finally, the road opened up around a defunct oil well and then continued on from there. It was wide enough for me to make a U-turn, but my brand of caution had me decide to put the windows down, park the truck, and get out to inspect the area for fear of sinking my truck. With the windows down, I sat there for a moment because a feeling of apprehension swept over me. I blew that off as concern for my current predicament. As soon as my dome lights came on, because of opening the door, as I started to step out of the truck, I heard the most horrific, guttural, blood-curdling, loud, long scream from the trees on the passenger side of my truck. My windows were down and it came straight through my truck and cut through me to my core. It was like three voices in one. Part of it was deep and guttural, while the other two danced around at a higher shrieking pitch. Well, maybe it was three voices, I don't know. That's pretty creepy, right? That's a real creepy description that we've heard a lot of times. I know what everything out there sounds like, or so I thought. It was no screech owl, it was no panther, it was no bobcat. Needless to say, my foot never hit the ground, and in a moment of rash decision-making, I slammed that truck into drive and cut a rooster tailing donut like you've never seen that almost got stuck. I was having serious regrets and feeling sick as my truck began to lose speed in the turn, but thank God it found traction again. I made it back up on the road and got the F out of there. I didn't know what it was or what to think, but I knew it was terrifying and I was shaking. I decided I wasn't getting out of my truck until shooting light and left well before dark. Third experience. Fast forward again to this past year, and I'll be honest, this is one that really has me on edge because it involved my son and has put a different perspective on it for me. Excuse me. At 6'4" and a solid 250, I used to think I was invincible. I might still feel that way, but raising children changes a man, and the possibility of putting your child in harm's way is a heavy burden. I really hadn't given the Bigfoot thing any thought despite those previous encounters. This next story is the reason I went looking for answers and found your channel. My 8-year-old son and I made a trip up northwest LA into a massive management area to tent camp and hunt for 4 days. We arrived at a very empty camping area as the initial rush of early season hunters had passed, and it was during the week. We made tent camp and set out to scout around some spots a friend suggested. It was later in the day when we got into the woods. As we walked in off the road, I was immediately hit with a really pungent, equine, like urine smell, which I found odd, but didn't think too much of. I thought maybe someone had set off an old funky buck bomb that had gone bad and shrugged it off. Walking into the woods, being as quiet as one can with an 8-year-old in tow, I started hearing an animal moving just inside of a thicket about 40 yards to our left that ran along both sides of a creek there. As we crouched and listened to it moving, I noted the wind was favorable for us and coming from the direction of the movement. I was completely focused on this area to the point I didn't heed my son trying to quietly get my attention to tell me there was a deer walking far front and right of us. Ha ha, won't make that mistake again. The movement stopped, and I assumed whatever it was had dropped down into or across the creek, so we continued on. Suddenly, this incredibly loud knocking sound started. It was 3 or 4 knocks at a time with a pause between them, and this happened 3 times. My son and I looked at each other, puzzled. He asked if it was a woodpecker, and I told him if it is, it's the size of a pterodactyl. We found a nice place where a few fell trees made a natural ground blind. After sitting a few minutes, suddenly the woods came to life, and it was bizarre. That was when I realized how deathly quiet the woods had been prior to that. After about 20 minutes, that incredibly loud knock happened again, and the woods felt utterly quiet again. This time it was only one set of knocks, and it was still quite close to us. After a while, I heard the animal move away from the creek and the ruckus of it spooking up a couple of wood ducks in the creek. The woods came back to life after a few minutes, but we never saw any game while waiting until dark. There were no deer tracks and scrapes all over, so I hoped we'd have better luck in the morning. I left ribbons on branches on the way out to mark our trail back in the dark. The next morning, we returned in the dark, a good hour before shooting light. That morning, the smell was way heavier and more putrid. On the way in, I held on to my son because I felt so uneasy. I felt like I was being watched, to the point I kept looking up in the trees for another hunter. There was no rational reason for these feelings. I'm not afraid of the dark, and I am comfortable in the dark woods. I'm an experienced outdoorsman, and have never been afraid of anything in our swamps or hardwoods. I felt really apprehensive, and scenarios started playing through my head of whether I was armed well enough with my son's deer rifle and my .40 cal sidearm. I don't have a lot of experience with large land predators unless you count the 2-legged kinds in society. I've never before felt that vulnerable, but in no way associated it with the events of the day before. I was turning over in my head how to best protect my son if we ran into what it was that was giving me that feeling. I would stop now and then and listen to look. Nothing. I had a headlamp on, and I would look ahead to the next ribbon and follow our trail. I got so disoriented that I somehow ended up back at the road we walked in from. No shit, with a ribbon trail too. Any other day I could have moved through the dark straight to the spot with no trail markers or lights. We stood in the road for a bit, and I tell you, I thought about leaving. My sixth sense was telling me to leave. We're trying to get my son's first deer, and I guess I wanted that for him too much to listen to my gut. That's not good. So I shrugged it off and went back into the woods like an idiot. We got to our spot while it was still quite dark and settled in. My son quickly fell asleep. Come light, the woods came to life, and as usual, and all was normal for about 20 to 30 minutes. I was feeling pretty good about our chances. And suddenly, the knocks happened again. The deafening silence returned. Not a bird, not a squirrel, nothing moved. The sound came from around the creek again. Only one set of knocks followed by silence for about 5 minutes. Then the branches started cracking and trees breaking, and a whole stand of large trees started swaying despite no wind. Holy shit, think about that. A whole stand of large trees started swaying. This was only about 50 to 60 yards away, but heavily overgrown, and I was frozen. And my son, thank God, slept through it. That went on for maybe 2 to 3 minutes, but it felt like an eternity while I tried in vain to see what was making the ruckus. In retrospect, it would have been one hell of an opportunity to ambush us from behind in an organized attack. At the very least, it could have been a distraction for something that got stuck in a lit area following us to make its way out of sight. We stayed until about 11 a.m. I was afraid of exposing myself as I felt my position was relatively defensible. I still didn't understand what had transpired. I sat there perplexed and on edge. We were in a clearer area, and returning meant going back through thickets. I was afraid of being ambushed. When my son got cold, that was all the extra excuse I needed to make a decision to get out. We made a beeline out. We didn't return to that spot and may never again. Nothing else interesting happened over the next couple of days, other than our tent being visited by a pack of coyotes in the early morning. None of it made any sense to me. We hunted different areas for the rest of the trip with no incidents. The following night, while relaxing around the fire, my son asks, "Dad, is Bigfoot real?" I didn't know how to answer that because I don't want him to fear the woods, but I also want to keep him safe. I couldn't help but find the question as odd, though, so I questioned about why he was asking, and he didn't let on to having seen or heard anything. I dismissed it during the trip, but it kept eating away at my mind until I started putting the pieces together and remembering those previous incidents. Once it all clicked, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm not sure what I'm going to do this hunting season. My son's talking about hunting, but the thought of endangering my son bothers me so much. I'm having a tough time bringing myself to want to go back in the woods. I just don't know how to deal with it. I never thought I would dread the woods. I loved hunting and fishing, and I want that for my children, but it's difficult for me to find the desire to go now. That sucks. All my life I said I would retire on an acreage in the middle of nowhere and shoot deer off my porch wearing only my underwear. That no longer appeals to me. The only way I've been able to reconcile this whole thing is to think maybe it was that creature's way of saying, "I'm here, I'm powerful, and next time you hear those knocks, it means you need to leave my territory." I just wish I could look forward to the outdoors again. I'm going to plan on hunting this fall because I feel if I don't, it'll become a permanent inhibition for me, but dang, I'm on edge with it all. Why us? Why 3 different locations so far separated? Why do my peers think I'm crazy if I bring it up? Does it get easier? Does the enjoyment return? Sincerely, Jay. Alright, then there's a paragraph for me, a few paragraphs just for me to read, alright? So hold on a minute. Alright, thanks for the last part too, man. Thanks for that email. Thanks for sending that in. Appreciate that big time. And, yeah, I don't know. I guess if you've been here for a while, you know my attitude about going back out there, right? And then, I've said it probably 100 times or more on here. You just got to take baby steps and go and listen to your instincts. What you got, your sixth sense, right? Stay in tune and listen to them. You get out of the truck, feels off, you just leave. And that's an instant cure for possibly exposing yourself to that situation that you don't want to be in again. Not everybody, like you said, you don't understand why people want that or ask for it. I don't get it either. But then again, I haven't had a warm, fuzzy conversation with any of these beings yet. I might in the future, I might not, I don't know, we'll see. Am I craving it? Not so much, but I'm starting to think that maybe it might be one way for me to find a few puzzle pieces, possibly. But then again, I think 99.999% of the people who claim to have contact with these beings also add in every time. They might be lying to me, they may not be, I'm not sure. Right? But anyway, I'm starting to melt here, I gotta get in the house. But don't stop going the outdoors. Go find new places. That's fun anyway, I love new places. That's what I've been doing the past couple of years, but coincidentally the new places I've been going to have absolute shit piles of sightings. Oh well, go figure. But go to new places and just test it out with your sixth sense. You know when they're there. It's never really that much of a surprise, right? Everybody starts, the hair on your neck stands up. You get the dread, the feeling of dread, anxiety. I gotta get out of here. I'm not comfortable here. I can't handle this. I gotta get out of here. You just leave. But act on it quicker. Do you know what I mean? You'll get to know the feeling. You guys have seen that. You saw that happen to me. I believe that was 2 winters ago, where I sit on those logs in the forest, not too far from where I steelhead fish. That's always been a little kooky there, right? And then at one time, I was just like, I can't be here. Other times I went there, I sat there for an hour and a half by myself sharing emails. No problem. That's the same forest you see me standing in the big trees with my green puffy jacket on. I was using that thumbnail a few times, right? And then farther up that timber is where I recently had that huge branch snap right beside me in the trees with no wind. And seeing that small bright light in the forest floor, and I just shrugged it off as a reflection off a beer bottle or something, which is a little silly. And again, I just left. Right? Maybe the little bright light was my initial, hey, guess what? And then I went down that little dirt road to the edge of the lake anyway, and I saw that branch rise up and down on the left of the horseshoe of the bank, and then stayed and started eating my lunch, and then that huge branch broke. So there's 1, 2, 3 indications that I kind of shrugged. Well, 2 indications I shrugged off till the big branch, and then I'm like, I'm out of here, and I left. Instant solved. I just left. Solved instantly, right? But anyway, absolutely appreciate you sending that in. I understand your frustration with people that are leaving gifts, food. I get it, man. I don't do it myself. We'll get the answers as long as we keep digging. As long as people like you and everyone else here keep sending in their emails. Keep sending in your knowledge. Keep talking. Don't be scared to talk. Then the puzzle will be complete. But I do have a funny feeling for me personally, and obviously I share everything I can. I think things are going to come to a big head for me before Christmas. For me and my puzzle. I mean, my puzzle's been filling up rapidly, but then all of a sudden you'll get a quick little left or right hand turn that makes you have to pull a couple pieces out and rehash them. But I got a funny feeling I'm going to know a lot more. Well, I'll have a lot more confirmed, let's put it that way, for me before Christmas. And I hope that I get the green light to share every single tidbit of it that's presented to me with all of you. See, right? Anyway, that is all. That was a long few days. Holy shit. So this will be... you guys will have access to this video, 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, which is Tuesday. Sarah's back Tuesday night at midnight. So I'm gonna let the sale on her store go until later tomorrow. For anybody who wants to take advantage of that. It'll be kind of fun to see her eyes pop, because I'm leaving right away. And when she gets a handful of orders, she's got a lot of stuff to do. With packaging and writing down, whatever she does. And then getting all to you. She goes right at it. Very diligent, so. At least she'll have that to do for a couple days. To keep her busy while I'm gone. And that's it, I'm babbling. I gotta get in. I've got animals to tend to and a tummy to feed. Share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you're going to get every single word of yours shared word for word. Email it to us through me, alright? I'll be back.